wanted to tell you a very beautiful story today, and a very interesting story. So yesterday morning after work, well, I wasn't finished exactly with work yet, but I'd finished, herding the cows back, and yeah, I was riding the bike back to the, the shed where it's stored, putting it away, and I drove underneath this big acacia tree. There's this big acacia tree on the way to the bike shed that I always drive underneath. And as I drove underneath the tree, I heard these voices suddenly calling out my name, screaming. And yeah, I looked up, and I looked around, and lo and behold, I didn't see anyone, because it had suddenly gone all quiet again. So I thought, oh, am I hearing voices now or what? What's going on? So I went around, I put the bike into the shed, put the bike away, and as I stopped the bike, I heard screaming voices calling out my name once again. I looked up, and for a few seconds again I didn't see anything, but then I looked at the very top of the acacia tree. There were 3 monkeys up there. Alright, well, 2 of the monkeys were two of the sons of the the guy I work for. Yeah, he has 2 sons, 11 and 13, and there was a 3rd monkey up there who was one of their friends, was staying over the night. And yeah, they were all 3 of them around similar age range, like just early preteen years. Yeah, just 3 young boys up there, just swinging from branch to branch and just enjoying life, laughing, screaming, and just being outdoors, in nature, and just up in this amazing tree. And as soon as I saw that, it pretty much gave me a flashback to my own childhood, remembering. Back where I grew up, there was this one park that I would go to often, where there was this very big, massive birch tree. And yeah, I remember I used to always enjoy climbing that tree. It used to be very easy to get up. I remember get up very high on that tree. It was very easy to get up, but then yeah, it wasn't so easy to get down. And I remember, once or twice I completely got stuck at the top of that tree, and I became too much of a wimp to get climbed down. So I needed someone's help to essentially get me down from there. And yeah, it just reminded me of when times were simpler, or when I perceived times to be simpler, because it just got me thinking, being out there in nature, outdoors, away from technology, away from the digital world, away from the internet, away from social media. This is the real world. It truly is the real world. And the real world is a lot less complex, a lot less divided, it has a lot less problems than I think we would initially think. And don't get me wrong, there's problems, but getting back to nature, getting back to the real world, pretty much most of these problems just would vanish overnight. I think if all of us were to get back to this pure state of just connecting with nature. And it sounds, some would say it sounds, very, very hippie and new agey for me to say that, but it's like, is it really so extreme to say that? I mean, look at the natural world, look at animal life, look at birds, look at wolves, look at all these animals, and look at kangaroos. Like, all these animals, right? They have their place in in the food chain, in the cycle of life. And each animal, they follow their instincts, and they instinctively know what they are, what their place is, right? They all know essentially who and what they are, right? And you can look at even at dogs. A dog knows what it is, but looking at most humans, do humans know what we are? Do we know our place in nature? Do we know it? The answer for most of us is no. And that reminds me of another story. A few years ago, I was in the Kokoda youth program. I'm not going to go into detail exactly what it is. It would be a very long story, and I actually have a video planned for it. But basically, it's 20, you know, like teens aged, I think 16 to 19, with, you know, a few group leaders. Essentially, you know, it's a program where, you know, you get taken out on different hikes, and you train to do the Kokoda challenge on the Gold Coast, which is a 96-kilometer hike, which some people choose to hike and some people choose to, you know, run it in like a marathon thing, pretty much, or it's longer than a marathon and that. But yeah, so we were training for that, but more than that, in the long term. At the end of it's like a 18-month program, and after the first year, you know, doing it, training, you get to go over to Papua New Guinea and hike the real Kokoda Trail. And, you know, going on the real Kokoda Trail in Papua New Guinea, you get to stop at, you basically stop at all these villages and stay overnight. It's a 12-day trek. And getting to see all these villages, you get to see a completely different existence for the people living there. I mean, look, they still had some, you know, they still had some modern technology and all of that, of course, being in contact with the outside world. Even not every individual hut had electricity, but they usually had, a sort of central station at the village where they had electricity, you know, from solar, and a few batteries where you could charge a few electronics. Like a few people around the village did have, you know, mobile phones and all of that. So it's not like they were completely, you know, cut off, but a lot of them were. You know, that was along the Kokoda Trail, and, you know, a lot of the Papua New Guinea has a lot of, or the whole island of New Guinea has a lot of, you know, uncontacted villages, uncontacted tribes, and a lot of villages live completely isolated from the outside world. You know, a few of them even have never had any contact with the outside world, and getting to view their existence there. I mean, I remember, you know, looking at, you know, watching some of the, you know, the locals essentially. You know, they had these, you know, like young, you know, 3-4-year-old kids who are, you know, hiking for many, you know, kilometers down the track, you know, going to, you know, harvest bananas, because they had a lot of bananas growing around there, and, you know, just getting a bunch of bananas and other fruits going around there. They were hiking kilometers, you know, up hills, down hills with bananas, and like some of these 3-year-olds, they were carrying these massive machetes that were literally bigger than them, you know, chopping off, you know, bananas and all that. And it really amazed me. And, you know, they walked along the track, you know, they brought the bananas home, and they went down, and, you know, they played in the creek and all of that. And yeah, when I saw, you know, the sons of the guy I work for, you know, just out there playing in the tree, I mean, like, you know, I know them a little bit, and, you know, they're very much into, you know, gaming and all that, so they spend a lot of time online. But, you know, they live in a, you know, basically just almost a pristine environment where they have, you know, large outdoor areas, you know, like no light pollution, no sound pollution. It's a very peaceful, you know, place. Essentially, it's an outdoor farm setting, and, you know, they still have to spend a lot of time outdoors. And it just reminded me of, you know, the fact that I'm very grateful that I got to spend a lot of my life, you know, outdoors, connected with nature. I mean, I've had some parts of my childhood have been, you know, not ideal. Many parts of my childhood have, there are things that I wish I could change sometimes. But what I've learned to do now is that, you know, accept it for what it is. You know, we don't get the childhood that we exactly want in many cases. So many things weren't perfect. I had my own shares of difficulties, as we all do. But one thing I'm very grateful for in my childhood is that, you know, the area I lived, I grew up, you know, in the city on the Gold Coast, right? But I grew up in one of the, you know, the outlying suburbs that was next to, you know, basically just forest, national park. Like, you could walk outside, you know, my back gate, the back gate in the garden, and you'd be basically in national park. And that's something I was very grateful for. My whole life I've always enjoyed going out in nature, going hiking, doing all of that, because it just I always felt like it just grounds me. And just, even when I was young, I didn't even think of it in these terms. I just enjoyed going out there. But now I understand really why. It's because in this modern day fast-paced world, we are basically conditioned, brainwashed to fear nature. to view it as the enemy, when in reality we are nature. We are all a part of nature, and the sooner we realize that, that's really, I think, what's going to, when we realize that, which I think it is a matter of when, because more and more people are waking up, I think that's really what we need to get back to. We need to get back to the basics, get back to nature, and just realize who we are, what we are, our place as humans. Because yeah, more and more people are waking up, and I believe that we're entering a new phase now, a new phase of awakening, a new phase of ascension. It's not easy, don't get me wrong, there's going to be a lot of turmoil, but I think we're in a very, very important stage right now that humanity has not been in for a very long time, or maybe has never even been in before. I don't know. But you're just getting to that place of humility where you realize your place in nature. It's such a beautiful thing. And yeah, yesterday just seeing those, you know, 3 boys climbing in that tree, and I climbed up as well. You know, as soon as I saw that, I climbed up and joined them for a few minutes. I mean, I had more work to do, but you know, in the moment I was just spontaneous. I climbed up. I had all my, you know, milking gear on, my gum boots, all of that, so it was not easy. I didn't climb all the way up, but I climbed up and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I was like, this is the fucking life.